today is January the 22nd, 2016, and we are doing an interview for the Chincoteague Island Life History Project and for the Ward Museum of Wildfowl Art. And my name is Ennis Barbery Smith. I'm the director at the Museum of Chincoteague. We have Kristin Sullivan, curator at the Ward Museum here, and we're interviewing Bobby Umphlett.
My name is Bobby Umphlett. I was born and raised on Chincoteague, 70-year-old.
Okay.
And my father and his family was born in Hertford, North Carolina. And we belong to the Ewers and the Youngbloods, or relation. We had part Indian in one side of our family. And the Ewer guy, the National Geographic came and took a swab of his DNA, and they determined that he was one of the, or their families was one of the early settlers in North Carolina. And we have tracked back the Umpfletts to the early 1500s. They come from, they originated in France, and they came to North Carolina, and then they moved from there to here.
What spell your? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Ewer?
Yeah.
E-U-R-E.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. What year and month were you born?
November the 16th, 1945.
Okay. And then
You wouldn't have rang.
Not then. And then, so your parents, what were their names? I don't know if you said their full names.
My father's name was Robert Elisha Umphlett, and my mother's name was Agnes Lewis.
Mm.
Yeah.
Agnes, and what did your father do?
My dad worked on the water and was a carpenter. I'm third generation of carpenters in our family.
Oh, cool. Do you know what kind of things he harvested on the water, or was it just seasonal and everything?
He would go and catch clams and oysters, and did some pine fishing, and then when he had the carpenter work, he would do the carpenter work, and he also shucked oysters for part of his living. And I saw a paper at your museum here that had his name in it where they were shucking oysters.
Huh. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And so with carpentry, you said you're third generation, so
Yes.
your grandfather did
My
it.
grandfather was first.
On Chincoteague too?
Well, he started in Carolina, moved to Chincoteague, continued, and I was working on a house for a fella, and I took this board down, and on the back of that board was Elisha Umphlett, Hertford, North Carolina. So I knew it was my grandfather.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is really cool.
You said your dad did pound fishing also?
Yeah, he did.
How long did people pound fish until in Chincoteague?
He did it. I can remember it. Yeah, I don't know when it really shut down, but I can remember it in my lifetime.
Did you go out with your dad, being a waterman at all?
No, no, never hunted with him. He didn't do too much hunting, but I just picked that up and really enjoyed it,
Mm-hmm.
And then you can see, I've done very much hunting.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I have two sisters. One is Audrey Justice, and the other is Joyce Reed.
And you're the oldest, or?
I am the oldest. Mm-hmm.
Okay. What memories do you have of Chincoteague from when you were really little? Do you have any specific memories of even before you went to school or start going to school for the first time?
I'd love to go in boats, swimming, things like that as I grew up. Then I started clamming, and we would go down to Burton's Bay and clam what we call wade clams. You get overboard, hang on the boat, move your feet, and catch them. And I had a lot of good experiences there, some bad ones. It was a couple guys there that I knew. His Doug Jester and his brother, and we were in Wetonkin, and they were wading in their boat. They had a boat apiece, and they would go down there and stay a week or two. And I was wading. I had an inner tube with a basket in it, and I had caught. It was heat right up, and I seen a shark. And I told Doug, I said, Doug, it's a shark. And when last I seen him, he went under and he was heading this way. and we're up by water like this deep, you know, maybe 3.5, 4 foot. So I backed up close to his boat in case I have to jump in his boat, you know.
Mhm.
He reaches in the bottom of that boat and got an oar. I didn't see it. And he stuck it underneath the boat, and he struck me between the legs. I thought that was the shark. I come right out of the water, turned the clams over, and when I looked at that pair of brothers, they were laid on the boat and couldn't even breathe. that was a fun experience. They talked about that clean to the die.
Yeah, you never wrote that one down.
That was a blast.
That's funny.
But we've had all kinds of them kind of experiences. The old timers used to say, now if you're going to wade clams in the gut, always go to the back end and wade out.
Why?
Because if it's a shark in there, it'll spook him out.
Oh.
But if you're wading back in there and you trap that shark, you might be in trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, I didn't pay that too much money. And I was wading and I heard something. And when I looked, here come one, he had a dorsal out of the water about like that. And I dove in the boat. He went right under the boat, lifted the boat up. And I threw a clam at him and he grabbed the clam. I didn't go back in that gut that day.
No.
Come on. I was in bad shape.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Can you describe wading clams?
Wading clams. Well, you stand in water probably up to your waist, and you have a cotton moccasin, they called, made out of cotton flannel. And you would put the soft side out, and you had a pin that stuck to, you know, that pulled it together like a safety pin. And you would run your feet out left and right, and if you get one, you can catch a little bit of mud under it, and you can slide it up your leg, and it's just like a conveyor belt. Clark, I'm sure he could bring them up both legs, because he'd done it for a living. I could only do it one leg, but it worked. And that's wading clams.
What did you do for fun when you were a kid? Clamming was fun, it sounds like.
It was. Swimming we did, water skiing.
Mm-hmm.
We stayed in
Water ski around here?
Good gracious, we lived on the water with water skis.
Huh.
Yeah. And, well, we hunted, clammed, we'd shoot our guns, you know, go duck hunting. We created our own sport. And even before I started hunting, we played a lot of ball, you know, like softball, baseball. Did a lot of that. And that was a lot of fun. All the neighborhood did get together, you know, and we'd go play.
Oh, what neighborhood were you in?
Right in this area. I was born and raised, and that's taxed over.
And this is East Side, right?
East
We
Side.
called it East Side, or Dodge City.
Dodge City. We're proud of Dodge. Now I'll tell you a story about
Okay.
the way they named it, I think, for Dodge. It was a man down into the street. His name was Walt Clark. I think you remember that. Have you seen that Bateman Center, that game warden that was shot? Well, some of the Chincoteaguers were having problems with that game warden. His name was Berkeley. I think if what I hear, that cigar, he pistol whipped cigar.
Oh.
Well, Walt was a highly decorated veteran. He fought down in Japan and them islands, and he's seen a lot of bad stuff. Well, anyway, he come home after the war, and Assateague was Chincoteague's farmland. When you wanted the deer, you go across and got your deer. Well, he went across there to get some food. I don't know if he was shooting ducks or deer. And the game warden got after him. Well, he ran, and I think what happened, the game warden probably shot over his head. Well, see, he was instinct. He swung around, took that shotgun, and shot him twice, right in the chest. Because over there in them islands, they come right up on you. You have to do things like that. And he went to jail, and when the trial came up, the judge asked him, says, how come you didn't shoot him the third time? He said, my gun jammed. So he meant to kill him.
Yeah.
And that's some of the stories that created Dodge City.
Okay.
It was always a fighting or something going on around here all the time. Yeah. But a heck of a good place to grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old were you when you started hunting?
13.
13.
Yep.
So when your dad gave you your first gun?
He gave me a Mossberg 20 gauge bolt action. I still remember it. I killed a lot of ducks.
Yeah.
And as I got older, we were poor. people around here, we used the ducks and the geese and the deer and stuff, fish. We ate off of that. And it was a store at the end of the lane named Harry Tarr's store. And he would sell gun shells. And we were so poor we couldn't buy a box. We'd go down and get 5. And we learned to shoot well.
5 shots, not five boxes.
No, 5 shells.
Right, 5 shells.
And Dad and Mom wanted some ducks for Sunday, so you learn to shoot.
How many ducks can you get with 1 shot?
I've killed 8 or 9 in 1 shot.
Have you really?
Mm-hmm.
What? How does that work?
Well, you get when they land, you get them in a knot, and if some of them are feeding, you give a whistle, and they'll stick their heads up, and you shoot for the heads.
Wow.
And it's a lot of people kill a lot more than that.
That's very precise. Wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we hunted for meat.
Mm-hmm.
We wasn't sport. We were eating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What was the best time to go hunting? Best time of day or time of year?
Early mornings and right at the edge of dark.
Mm-hmm.
If the wind was blowing, cold, froze, the channels froze and stuff like that, that was a good time.
Mm.
They were coming out looking for holes and places where they could feed. And we find out where the holes were.
Mm-hmm. When I interviewed you and the other guys before, somebody used the phrase the Cadillac of hunting. They said it was when there was a full moon out.
That was me telling you.
It's a Cadillac of hunting.
You've never hunted unless you've hunted on the full moon. Plus, have that same pond baited.
Mm.
You bait the ducks, they keep coming in night after night. Then when that full moon's just right, wherever you always get on the opposite side of the pond and face the moon. And when you could see them coming in, it's just like daylight.
Mm.
And boy, you could really kill a lot.
What kind of bait did you say it was? The
Corn,
corn. Okay.
number
okay.
1 corn. But then the game wardens could spot that from the air, and they started using Milo and stuff like that. They couldn't pick it up.
They could spot it from the air. Do you mean they were in plane? Oh, how
They were in airplanes. Dorsey
wow.
Davenport, he was the main one. Johnny Crum. I had Johnny Crum stop me one day, him and another guy, he lives on Saxes, and I had a load of Martians in the casing of my outboard where you couldn't see them over the limit. You know what I mean? And he pulled me over, and he says, I'm going to check your boat. He checked everywhere, under the bow, gun cases, gas tanks, because sometimes the woods were holler the gas tanks, I can put them in that. And he never found them. So years later, after I quit gunning, I told, it was a marshal boy that was with him, and I told him, I said, tell him about him stopping me, He said, did you have over the limit? I said, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He said, where'd you have them? I said, in the casing of the outboard. It was a Chrysler outboard, and it had a space in between the main head of the motor and the casing, and you could put them all the way around it.
Wow.
How many did you have in there? Do you know?
No, not really. I don't know. It was whatever I had over the limit. But we had a good time, trying to act foxy. But listen, they were smart, dedicated people.
Yeah.
Game wardens were.
Who did you hunt with?
Me, well, one of my good buddies was Louis Earl Budd. He's died now. I hunted with them quite a bit. Then me and Elvie Wilton really got into it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He did some trapping. I never got into that part. We were getting ready to do it one year, but something happened, we didn't do it.
Where did you go hunting? Was it Wildcat, Assateague, where?
Well, I've hunted all up to the northern end of the island, clean up to the Maryland line. Mm-hmm. But my favorite spot was on the western side, in front of Captain Bob's, them marshes back under there. Mm-hmm. Black ducks were real thick. And we would bait it. And what I would do, I would got a gut that came into this big creek, but it was shallow. And the game wardens had a time getting in there. And that's how I could hear them run ashore, and then I could go out the other end. So that worked out pretty good. Yeah. But what I would do sometimes when I went over there, I would pole up to the edge of the marsh where you went into the big creek, and it was some, I guess, marsh maybe 2 foot, 3 foot tall. But if anybody had been through there, the bubbles from where the prop kicked up would stick to the marsh. And if I seen a load of bubbles, I know he was back there. I'd go home.
That's pretty smart.
And I never tried to get into a place where it was only one way out.
You learned your lesson with the shark.
Well, you get trapped by there. If he comes by there, he's gonna catch him and then put a big fine on you.
Yeah.
I was lucky. I never paid a fine.
Huh.
Never paid one.
Were you ever caught?
No. That's like I say, I was lucky.
Yeah. How did the relationship, like, with the island and the refuge, how's that changed in your lifetime?
Well, I think the older generation of Chincoteaguers really disliked the wildlife.
Yeah.
Because it started when they kicked the Chincoteaguers off. And then some of them had to move their houses over here. The younger generation, they'll get over it,
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're still doing some things that were not.
Yeah.
They were trying to take the clamming and they fishing out of Tom's Cove, and that's going to get heated. That's not fair. We've had that for years, ever since the people's been on Chincoteague. They shouldn't be able to take that. Not the livelihood from the people.
Yeah, I know.
That's
I'm
not right.
so surprised to hear that.
Yeah. Well, I think that they're going to have a mess on their hands. They don't know, but I kind of say that. I think Chincoteaguers will fight back on that one.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Where did you used to clam and oyster? I can't remember if we asked you that already. Where?
Well, I've been from Oyster, Virginia, to the Merle Line,
So just wherever they are.
where somebody says, "Well, I call a load up here. We'd go up
Yeah.
next day. Kind of give us a little better odds of catching something."
Were there foods that you ate as a kid, or that you don't eat now, or that
Food.
Yeah, foods. This is one of the questions some of our people in our life history group came up with. Things like different dishes that you ate as a child that now you wouldn't make really, or no.
The little Chincoteague loves anything.
I know one. What about down the bay bread? Did you ever make down the bay bread?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Put that on the old stove
Uh-huh.
and make it thick and it had a crust on it. Oh, that was worth eating.
Now, how'd you make it?
Well, I don't have the recipe. I don't know. My dad he did it because I remember him telling me about it, and my mom made it. But it was surely good, really good. We eat clams raw, and the best ones in the world that comes out of Tom's Cove. Sandy bottom, close to the ocean, salty. But some of them big clams have a transparent worm in them.
Oh.
And I love to play tricks on some people. Well, I had some Amish friends come down, didn't want to go. Went out there and I was eating one, and they had a hard time eating that clam, they didn't really want it. Well, finally they ended up eating one. And then when they got done eating it, they liked it, threw up, I asked them, did they eat the worm? They said, what worm? So I opened one and it was one in there, and I put it in my teeth and sucked it down, and I think they lost everything they had. We do that to tourists, We have to break them in,
Did you take hunting parties? I just happen to think if you're taking people from out of town,
Yeah.
clamming and stuff.
I have.
Yeah.
Miller Jones got me started in that, helping him. He would have an overflow, and I would help him. That's one job I never cared for, because if people come down here couldn't hit the broadside of a brick building, they would shoot all my shells and all their shells and didn't have their limit. And that frustrated me so bad. Oh man, that tore me up.
Suppose if you grew up to where you could do 8 birds in one shot.
Well,
Yeah.
sitting on the water now.
Yeah.
These birds are sitting on the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a difference.
Yeah.
That sporting's all right, but a lot of times you don't bring nothing home. We were after eating.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even to this day, I deer hunt some, but I'll get enough deer to run me in one full year. And I process it. And Clark's the same way, he does the same thing.
Yep.
Do you use your decoys to hunt, or have you used them in the past as working decoys?
When I first started making, that was the reason for me getting into making decoys, was to make something to hunt with. And I started, I think, in '63, and I quit probably middle of '80s because my construction, I couldn't keep up with it. And it's a lot more money in the construction than it is in decoys, by a lot. And now I've gone back, my grandson, he got to the age where he wanted to hunt, want to hunt some ducks, so I made him 6 buffalo heads. And matter of fact, I got a pair of them, that's one pair of them. And I give him a pair, and I give my niece a pair. But I took him hunting, he shot ducks over that. I remember carrying my son his first time, and I have a buffalo head up there. And the buffalo heads landed close to the decoys, and he killed the buffalo head, but he also got the decoy, and ain't not money to buy it. He got shot in him. Yeah, that was fun.
So so you went to the school on Chincoteague, right? Where was it located when you went?
North Main Street, Chincoteague High. I started in the 7th grade. That was the first year of the school. It was brand new, and went on through 12th. And a lot of the mornings I would hunt during hunting season, and I would come in before class, and I'd have my shotgun, my gun shells, my gun boots, decoys, and I put it in my locker, go to class. And then as I got older, we would work on planting oysters before school. That was good money. We could make some extra money then. And Bill Birch would have this guy bring 3 monitors of oysters, 1,000 bushel oysters per monitor. And it was, I guess 6 or 8 of us from high school would go on there, say about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and we'd plant all 3,000 bushels of oysters before school started. The first week that you started that, your hands was nothing but blisters. And but after you worked on it a while, it got toughened up. But that's a lot of oysters to plant.
You must have gone to bed early.
Well, you were tired when you got home.
Did a lot of kids do that? Was that pretty? No.
They're too lazy.
No.
They ain't gonna work. All they want to do is sit in there and play with that daggone little miniature computer. I got a grandson just like it.
Back in the day when you were doing that, did a lot of kids that your age do that sort of work?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. All the boys I knew, they'd be most of them in the wintertime be working in the oyster houses. They all be worked. I worked. Just about everybody worked, and we made some extra money that way.
Yeah.
Do you have any teachers that you remember for being particularly good or particularly mean or anything like that?
Really, I don't remember any of the teachers that were right mean, you know. But I had an algebra teacher, and I can't think of Taylor. I think her last name was Stella Taylor, great algebra teacher. And if I had a little problem, she would help me. But at the end of the week, I'd have her mess of clams, and she liked clams. So we did a little trading, you know.
Instead of bringing the teacher an apple, you bring her some.
Yeah, I just brought her some clams. She got a kick out of that.
What did you do after high school? Did you go straight into the construction?
Yeah, my dad was, I went to work with him, and I started when I was 13 working with him too. And I worked to first part of the 80s, and I started taking contracts on myself. See, at that time we were working for another man, and I ended up making some good money. I told Dad, I said, I'm going to do this as a job. He said, you're going to starve to death. But one good thing I had enough sense to learn math real good, and construction is all math. Everything is math. And I've done real well. I'm real pleased. I don't think I could have got a college education and done what I could done.
Yeah.
Right.
My son is a computer expert. He didn't get it from me. No. But he's doing well.
What do you remember about did you start dating when you were in high school or after high school, and what was that like at that time?
Oh yeah,
Where'd
all
you
the
guys
boys
go?
gonna date, you know. But we got a saying. I got married in 1964. I've been dating my wife now, since the 10th grade, I think it was. And we've been married 52 years, and I would do it all over again.
Oh.
Now I've got her just like a Warner, because she only beats me once a week. And she tells me today is the day. But yeah, we dated, and I got married in '64.
What's her name?
We get married early, Chincoteague does. And,
Yeah.
her name is Nancy
What's her maiden name? What family was she?
Hagler.
Hagler.
Yeah.
And so you guys met in high school. You went to high school together?
No, she was raised up in Montgomery County, right next to D.C.
Oh.
Her people would come down and go to these campgrounds. So me and my buddy, we were water skiing, and these two girls in the channel. Well, you know what happened there. We used to go water skiing around. We had them in the boat. Then I kept her for 52 years.
Oh, that's funny.
I was having a problem when I first met her. I had a boat, and with the tide up, we would sail through these guts, like going through gut, and we had a mercury, it was a tiller, and you could waller that boat down on its sides. It was fun.
Yeah.
And she wasn't getting over close enough to me. So what I did, I waxed the seat. You know, you waxed it, and I took her through there. She came over.
Oh my Lord.
That's a great story.
Well, we come up with some tricks, so
So how did you convince her to move down here?
she loved it here. She really did, yeah. And she liked the water. She still does.
So you said you got married in
64.
64.
July the 3rd.
Uh,
Make sure you remember that.
Did you go? Did you get married on the island, or a lot of people I've talked to go up to Maryland to get married?
That's where we did.
Why did you go up to Maryland?
Because she was a little bit underage.
Oh.
And I hitchhiked. I didn't have a car. From there to Salisbury to get my license. I let my beard grow for about 2 weeks. Went on in there to give me the license. Home I come. I got married.
Well, you were what, 19?
18
Did my
at the
math
time.
right?
I was 18. She was 16.
Hmm.
And they said it'd never last.
And it
It
did.
They didn't know what they were talking about.
That's what somebody was telling me the other day. They said, "Yeah, we went up to Maryland because I was 13." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah, a lot of girls got married early.
Wow.
You know?
So funny. So what was it like when you went up there and got married? Did you go and?
We had a honeymoon.
Mm-hmm.
We had a honeymoon in downtown Fruitland. Look, I never had no car to come home with. I had to call my buddy come get me.
I'm sure you were happy though.
Oh
It
my
was
God,
great.
Nancy's probably going, what did I get myself into?
Yeah. Well, she's had her hands full.
And so you mentioned you have kids. How many kids do you have?
I
What are
have
their
one
names?
boy. His name is Bobby Umphlett Jr. He has a son and a daughter. Daughter just turned 17, and son's 13. He just signed up for a shooting rifles and shotguns and bows. They have teams, you know, in
Oh,
Carolina.
uh-huh.
And he just started, but he's doing real good. Yeah.
That's nice.
We taught him how to shoot, and he just fine-tuned it now. Yeah, my grandson, he just joined a rifle team in Hertford, North Carolina. They have a lot of contests and things down there. And he called me last night, and he was shooting the shotgun at an early age, or 13, and it was, you know. Anyway, he said, "Pop," he said, "I shot 10 in a row. He said, I shot a total of 14 and got 13. And he says, but I've got 10 in a row." I said, "You know, that's $10. That's $1 for every one you get in a row." So I'm teaching them really
Wow.
practice. And
That's
he's doing well. Granddaughter, she's doing well. She's just got her driver's license, and I'm hoping she'll do the same kind of job that my son's doing, because he makes a lot of money, quite a bit.
Does she hunt, or do any of the women in your family hunt? Did Nancy ever go out with you?
She has, not much. My son, I kept him in the marsh at an early age. We had a place over in Willis's, and we made a blind. It looked like a coffin. You lay down in it, and he was set between my legs with his pellet rifle, and I would lay it kind of up the back, and we always did like yellow legs to eat. So when they come in early, he would shoot some of the yellow legs, but when the black ducks come in, he would lay flat, and I would take care of that.
I recall Nancy went fishing with you too.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
You heard that story, right?
It's a good
Oh,
You
you
don't,
better
I
tell
don't
it
think
again.
you would want that on.
No?
I'll
Okay,
leave that
never
up to
mind.
you.
What do you think they would say if I told him?
I think people would love to hear it, but I don't.
Well,
Go for it.
I'm going to tell you one that you ain't going to believe.
We can always edit it out if we don't
That's
like
true.
it.
Now, if you blush, it ain't my fault. Me and my wife was fishing, and they had these limits. You can't catch this, you can't catch that. You know, and I think they might have been 16-inch limit at that time. Well, we had
For
caught
flounder?
the flounder, so we had caught 2, and we wanted them best to eat, for supper, and they were about a 1/4 inch under. We got a grapevine on Chincoteague. If the game warden or VMRC's around, we know right where they're at. Did we get calls, And I got a call, said the man's on the dock. Nancy said, what are you going to do? I said, give me them fish. So I flayed them up, got all the scales off, and I had 2 Ziploc bags. And I put them in that. I said, Nancy, lift your bra up. She lifted both of them up. I set them right there and laid them right back down and put that back on, and I came to the dock. I said, now if the man reaches down in there, be prepared, he's going overboard. We never had a minute's trouble. And the other good thing about that, it only took half of the propane gas to cook it. They were pre-warned. I don't expect you've heard a story quite like that.
That's the best fishing story I've ever heard.
That is an outlaw special. I got a good friend that he is a game warden. His name is John Barbery. And I told him that. He looked at me, he said, Bobby, he said, how do you think of things like that?
That was quick thinking.
I was coming home with something to eat. I like to say, we eat on the water, we eat.
So what are some of this is a different topic. What are some of the
I think anything would be a different topic.
Probably so.
Better get away from that topic.
I'm going to start coughing again. What are some of the most significant what are some of the biggest changes you've seen on Chincoteague over your lifetime?
The building of motels or hot motels, things like that. We got too many regulations. We're regulated to death. We can't do nothing, I mean, the whole line has changed completely from what I grew up in. And I'm afraid it's going to get worse before it'll ever get better. That part I have a problem with.
When you were little, I'm trying to think, when was the bridge to Assateague built? Were you around?
62, 63, 64.
So you remember before the bridge
I used to sit on the cement pilings and catch fish. Yeah. Yeah, I used to do that.
Do you think that's when the big, changes with tourism
definitely,
happened?
Yes. That, if it wasn't for the tourists, Chincoteague wouldn't exist. Because you can't make it on the water. It's just not, it's not there no more. But yeah, it was a change. And if it weren't for that, I wouldn't have what I've made, I've done well in construction, saved, invested, and weren't that good. But I wouldn't have had a life, I'd had gone into service or gone somewhere, got a different job. But it enabled me and a few other boys to be able to stay on the island. So that's good.
What about changes with with the birds and the ducks? Have you seen changes in the numbers of ducks over the years? And
Yeah, I've seen some. Yeah, and the rules and regulation is good to have. Yeah,
Okay.
I have no problem with it. And probably if I went back and had it over again, I don't know if I would have done it the same way. You know what I mean? I know one evening from 4 o'clock to about 5:15, me and Elva killed 43 black ducks. And we had them all spoke for. Matter of fact, we had a man, his name was Johnny Machete, and he loved the black ducks, especially if they had corn, fed them corn. And he would stop me on the way over where I was going hunting. He said, Bobby, I need a couple pair for Sunday. That's good enough, I'll have them. So I'd carry them when I got back, I'd carry them a couple pair. And it'd be back maybe a week, I'd have a washing tub half full of eels. I like the eels. And that's how we traded.
Huh.
And some of the ducks, when we did shoot like that, we might sell a couple pair to get a box of shells.
Okay.
But most of them it was eaten, by us.
So he caught the eels. Did you ever go fishing for eels?
Yeah.
Did you use a like an eel pot or
Spears.
Spears?
Yep. They had a 5-finger one. Matter of fact, I got one in there somewhere. And you would catch it when the first ice come. and you get up along the side of a mud bank like this, but you're, tides over it, and you would jab it in the mud,
Yeah.
and you would feel him, and you pull him up, and you just dump him in the tub.
So the black ducks, how'd you prepare those? Have you ever prepared them?
Yeah, we would cut the feet and the wings off, the head, and pick them, and then you would gut them, wash them all out, and then you put them over a fire, and the fuzz that was on the ducks, it would take off, and it would be good. Good eating.
With the smaller ducks like bufflehead and whatnot, do you just breast them, or do you do the same sort of preparation?
Same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, we did the same thing. The hooded mergansers, we did the same thing. They were a little fishy, but we eat them.
Were there any birds that you wouldn't eat, like cormorant? Or
No, we wouldn't eat them like that.
Yeah.
No. Me and Elvis used to hunt mergansers, redbreast, in April. And what we would do, so that the big, the males would get in here, and they were beautiful like that male, And the way we would do it, we would save, his family would save all the stale bread they had, and my mom would save it. And we would take it down there, and we have a little blind along the narrows, and we'd start throwing the bread in the water. That draws the winter gull. Well, he comes in, he's hollering, going on.
Yeah.
Well, the shell ducks can hear it or see it from a long distance, and here they come. They think that the seagulls would find a load of something to eat. But on the bottom of the decoy, we would tie a strip of rag about maybe 6 or 8 inches and soak that in linseed oil. When you threw that over, it created a slick. When that shell duck seen that slick, he thought he was right in the middle of a school of fish. And just soon as he hit the water, he'd go under. But he'd come up, he couldn't figure it out,
Oh,
But when he come up, we had it all ready for him. We'd kill him.
Wow.
But that's how we did that.
That's cool.
But that does work. We did that quite often. Me and Elle would be hunting in April, season been out by 2 months. Well, I'll tell you a story about it. He got this bright idea to build a light box. Now what you do with that, we built it like 3 sides, and had a top on it with little cans to let the air out so it would work. And you put I forgot what we put in, a kerosene lamp inside of it. And it would light come out of all the glass, And you put it on your bow of your boat, and you hear the geese and the ducks up on the flats, but it's dark. And you keep going, and you get into them like that, and blah, you'll come right out where you can see them, and then you shoot them. They wouldn't jump. But this particular time, I was doing the polling, and he was doing the shooting. We didn't see nothing but a seagull. I know I poled from here to Ocean City and back. I'm just telling you, it was a long distance. But we ended up not killing nothing that night.
Oh Lord. No, so the light box you're describing, that's like what the old market hunters would use, right? Okay.
Yeah, Cort did a lot of that. Up on Tony's show, I think. He tell you about some of them stories?
He tells a couple, but then he gets kind of quiet and nervous.
Well, I tell you, I think they ought to know it. People
Yeah.
ought to know it. It's like we were talking about that first time. It's going to be gone. When my generation's gone, it's over.
Yeah.
The young kids ain't taking it up.
Yeah.
Not like we did.
Yeah.
It was a passion for us. Yeah, we enjoyed it.
When do you think people stop doing some of the tricks you're talking about? Some of the, doing light boxes or knowing the tricks to get away from the game warden, that sort of thing?
Some of that still goes on. Yeah, some of that still goes on. Nothing like it used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know when I went out hunting with somebody that I won't name, he's probably around 40. He was telling me about stuffing ducks down his waders, and or putting ducks in a cooler and then sinking that in the marsh somewhere and coming and getting that later. So I know a couple tricks are still.
Well, we used to put them right in the back of the crease of our boot, put our boots on, and put them right here over the limit.
Yeah.
We had shot a load of Martians, and the 2 federal boys was coming. I told the boys, I said, these are game wardens. I said, get your boots on. Take each 2, 3 Martians, each one of you put them right here. Sit down, don't get up. And I said, get your license up here where you don't have to stand up and it'll be bulgy. That's how it started. And these 2 federal boys come in. And I got talking to them, how fast their boat was, getting their minds off everything.
Yep.
And he checked my gun, he checked my plug, and everything was all right. Well, he was getting ready to go to the next man. The boy down on the end looked at me. He said, I don't even have a license. I said, good life. So I pulled my license back out, handed it to him. He ran it through again. We got away with it.
That's a amazing you've never gotten fined.
That's my Morrison.
Is there your phone?
I
Turn this
cut that
off.
thing off. I bet you don't have a Martian in call.
I've never heard Martian ringtone.
Me neither.
So, I want to ask a couple questions about carving. It won't take too long. But, so you said you started in 63?
I'm 63, yes.
All right. And you were born in 45, but you started hunting, I'm putting my math together. You started hunting when you
16
were
or
13.
17.
Yeah.
Before it's
So,
hard. Yeah.
so there's a few years you went hunting before you started carving decoys. Did you use decoys from around the island, or?
Some, a lot of them they had, I think they even had rubber ones back in there. I remember hunting with some of them.
Oh, that early?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was it just cheaper to make your own, or why did you start making your own then?
I just wanted something better.
Yeah.
You know. We made the decoys, chopped them out by hatchet, melted the lid to put the keels on them. And Chincoteague guys wind their decoys different than mainland people.
How do they do that?
Let's see. You see how that's wound
Yep.
around his neck and his tail?
Sort of an X pattern
Yeah.
around? Uh-huh.
The ones on the mainland wrapped around their back of their neck.
Mm-hmm.
And but we would make the lid. When I first got started, and Roe used to come over my house quite a bit, and he still talks about that. We used to have a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who'd you learn from? Or did you just,
Me,
you learned by doing it?
yeah.
Yeah.
I was always like to do something different. You know, sometimes it turns out good, and sometimes it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
When I first made them, they were crude,
Mm-hmm.
real crude, but it worked.
That's the important part.
Uh-huh.
What kind of materials did you use at first?
Cottonwood mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you prefer to use now?
For hunting birds,
Mm-hmm.
I like cottonwood.
Cottonwood still?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
durable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I just got a load in the other day.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you're gonna be making some hunting birds.
Yeah, I'm planning on my next thing I want to get into is to make a nice rig of hunting birds.
What are you gonna make?
Black ducks, some mallards, hooded McGann's probably, red breast.
And what kind of wood do you use for your decorative
I
carvings?
forget it. It's comes out of Carolina. Tupelo. I believe
Tupelo?
it is, Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice one.
Yeah.
Real hard, expensive, hard.
It's very expensive. Yeah.
I messed up carving some of my own pieces on Tupelo. What good Lord, I'm done with Tupelo. Too much of a waste.
But I think Roe, he uses a lot of cedar, which I got cedar too. He does quite a bit. Most of his birds like that.
White cedar?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
it is white. Mm-hmm.
So you learned from yourself, but did you have any influences? Did you know, I don't know, look at Miles Hancock or Ira Hudson or anybody in particular as you were
I didn't
learning?
know Artie Hudson. I knew Miles Hancock. Some of the things he did, we still do, like the weights on the bottoms, most of them,
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Okay.
He made a bird, Miles did, it was heavy and thick, and it would withstand a lot of abuse,
Yeah.
and that was good.
Did you ever go over to Miles's shop?
I have, yeah.
What was that like?
Well, he would be out there chopping, you know. I can remember that was early. Where I got a lot of good tips was cigar. Cigar, but he would show me some things sometimes. You know, sometimes somebody knows something like that and don't want to do it, but he had his wife, Lucy, backed out of his driveway, and the bumper caught in the corner of his house, which is, he had aluminum side and aluminum corner, and pulled that thing right off.
Oops.
And he couldn't find the corner anywhere, which I deal and stuff like that. And I ended up finding it for him. Went up there and fixed it. So I ended up getting that mallard up there.
Oh, cool.
That mallard in the middle.
Yep.
And on that, he wrote a load of stuff on that.
Huh.
And he said, you date it like you want it. I'll put 19, you put it, whatever year you want it. He said, the farther back it goes, the more valuable it is.
That's so funny. We just recently got to have in the museum on loan for a little bit. We got this door that's from Cigar's shop. Did you ever write anything on that door?
No, you got that from Gene Wayne, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, he just loaned it to us. He
Sure.
won't give it to us.
Oh, no, I don't imagine.
So we're gonna have that up for a little bit. But
That's an interesting thing.
I have to put a little disclaimer for, 18 and over.
I know, it's
Don't
true.
read it.
It's true, it's true. So you remember that door being there, though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you, he was good. That cigar was good.
Yep.
He's the best that's been on the island.
You think?
Yeah.
Mm.
Ain't nobody, for us making words like him. He was the man.
Yeah.
Which I think he had some help learning how to paint, some of his
Mm-hmm.
friends. That worked out nice.
Yeah.
Well, the same way with us, we've had a boy that come from Ohio. He's been teaching us some painting and things. And it's really helping me.
Let's see. So it's somebody that does flat art, not birds.
No,
Yeah.
decoys.
Decoys.
He makes
Oh, okay.
decoys. He's been a world champion twice.
Oh, who is it?
Dick Rody.
Okay.
You know him?
Not personally, I know his name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dick Rody.
Huh.
Nice fella.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Would you say that there's a Chincoteague style of decoy? And if so, what is it, or what would make one?
Oh yeah, some things. Their heads is more straight, like that black duck I showed you.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't get it down because of the ice. They tried to not carve a concave in the back of the neck because water get in there and freeze and it shines.
Oh, okay.
The weights on the bottom, the way they did it, the weights that they made for anchors. Quite a few things, and a lot of mine I used to pin the buffalo heads with a big long galvanized spike. And somebody would say, "Did you make that take a while up and look at it?" I rubbed across there and I could feel it. I said, "Yep."
Huh. Where would the spike be? Its
Right down
head
through his
down-
head.
Okay,
I
connecting
put
it.
weldwood powdered glue on it and mash it down and then spike it. I never had one break.
Huh.
Wow.
It held good.
You said that the weights, the anchor and the keel, are particular to Chincoteague. What makes them particular? Like, what did Miles Hancock do differently that, or whoever, than say Upper Bay or some other style bird?
Way they made them probably 3/4 of an inch in width and maybe 4 or 5 inches in length.
Okay.
And on the ends they would flatten it a little bit so you could get the nail through it. He would nail the front part, put them in the water. If he leaned that way, he would shift the back until he evened out,
Oh, okay.
and then he would pin the other.
Huh.
Yeah, a lot of that. And then they used flat television wire. It's a flat wire, maybe 1/2 inch. It's got little strands of copper in it, real tough. They bend it over and drive it underneath of it in order to put the string.
Oh, okay. Oh, for the loop to put the string on.
Right.
Gotcha. And I know some people make, when they make their anchor weights, they make them different shapes or, they're particular to the person. Did you have a certain style that you made for your anchor weights?
Yeah.
What's a Bobby Umphlett anchor weight look like?
Well, a lot of times I had made them with my Umphlett in the bottom
Well, that makes sense.
though. I would, on the front of them, some of them I did, I made a tip sticking off like that when it hit the bottom, it would cock down quicker.
Ah,
And I would put the shanks probably 3.5 inches long, make them out of, if you could get copper, the hard copper, and you would flange it, act like that, and you said then your mold pour over it, and it would really do, it would fall down and catch the edge, and the more it pulled, it dug in good.
So, as you know, right now in the Ward Museum, we have an exhibit about carving, or about hunting on Chincoteague, and I included something about the Snow Goose Festival that used to be on Chincoteague Island. And we have, I think, a bird you painted and a head you carved,
Yeah.
and an exhibit about that. So I know that you used to compete, and I just found out you still compete some.
I did well, me and, I've won some best of shows over there.
Did you?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
so I was going to ask, what are some of the awards you won, or what are some of the competitions you've been in?
That pintail underneath that white tail, it was 2 best of shows. Cigar had one and I had one. And I had the first choice. It was for the Bob Hines painting. He painted it on the spot. And it had a pintail and it had a ruddy duck. And I had the first choice. I took the pintail and Cigar took the ruddy duck.
What other competitions have you been to or been in?
Well, they had them up to high school quite a bit. I did well up in there. Yeah, all hunting birds,
Is there anything we haven't asked you that you think should be part of the?
Well, I don't know, but I could tell you. I can tell you a couple more stories from getting away from the game.
Do it.
Sure, if you want to. If they're good stories,
Well,
we're open to that.
Me and Elvie and Jakey Truex were marshing in Quimby. Tied up, raining northeast.
Mm-hmm.
One of us would ride the boat, which that's a no-no. And the other two would shoot. Well, they shot a few birds and we put them in the boat. It come my time to do the shooting. And Elvie do the driving. I shot one and crippled him, and he fell in the edge of the marsh. And we would be early in the season wearing tennis shoes. It was warm, but it was like a northeaster blowing a gale, you know. So I go over to look for the Martian. Now what happens when he sees you coming? He dives, and he takes his bill, and one of the marsh reeds, he takes his bill and hangs onto it underwater.
Oh, okay.
But if you go up to him and let the tide come to you, so that it washes the mud away, you know, from where he's at, if you look, you'll see a bubble come up. And you see that bubble come up, and you walk right there and pick it right out of the water.
Wow.
And we were there doing that, and I heard something. And when I looked up, about 100 foot off the ground, there was Dorsey Dad boarding that red plane. He seen us shooting with the motor going. So I turned around and waved Elvie to run. So I run and jumped into this creek, and he has moss on top of the creek. I dove under that, gun and all, and pulled the moss up to me like this, and got right up against the marsh. Now I'm underwater, looking at him. The game warden lands the plane and taxied up to him. Dorsey got out with a pair of gun boots on and his pad, and was writing that Elvie and Jakey up. Fine time. You know, he didn't do that fine. He'd never seen me.
No wonder you never got caught.
How mad were Elvie and Jake that they...
Oh, I told Elvie, I wouldn't hunt with him for 2 years. He made me so mad. I said, that's the dumbest thing I have ever seen you do. He said, why? I said, you had both ends of those narrows to run. All you had to do is run down in that creek where it was rough. He ain't gonna set that plane down in that rough water, because he'll beat pontoons right off of it. I never hunted with him for 2 years after that. Yeah, we had some great times.
You've been hunting a lot for marsh hens. I sort of remember you telling me a story about getting a bunch of marsh hens and putting them in a bag that floated. Am I making that up?
I had so many Martians one day, and the game warden was in there, and I seen it. I said, I'll tie it to my Danford anchor. Tied them right to it. And something told me, he said, you better check that. I put it overboard, and the anchor floated.
How heavy was that anchor? So how
That
many birds
anchor
do you
was
have?
probably about that long, but it floated it. I said, that ain't gonna be good. See what I was going to do if he was getting after me, I'd just throw the anchor close to the bank somewhere, and he would go under and hide the Martian, see, and sail on, and then when he got done checking me out, come on back. But that didn't work. That's one trick that didn't work too good.
So what did you end up doing?
Well, I kept it on the anchor, I think. I might have took a few of them off and checked it, but I just had too many on it. That wasn't working too good. But I've had them after me, and I had a boat named the Sneaky Snake, 16-foot Jestercraft. I had a special built for speed. I put a 90 horse Mercury, and that boat would run.
Sneaky snake?
Sneaky Snake.
Okay.
And one day, a federal boy out of Cambridge got after me down there. And he had 150, I only had a 90. But I knew the water, and I knew how to do things with it. Well, he got after me, and he was catching me. The water was probably 1.5 feet on top of the reeds. So I trimmed the motor down and got her going real fast and jumped her up on the marsh. And I'd be going, and sometimes the motor would hit, and I'd turn her on her side and let her slide. And then I'd turn her that way and let her slide. I slid it across to the next gut and left him right there.
That's amazing.
He worked, but he never did that. He never got where he wanted me to. God. There was another time. We were in Cedar Rock Bay, and it was blowing, and the tide was late in the afternoon, almost dark. And we would go from one gut to the other to find the birds. And I looked up maybe 150 yards, 200 yards, there was a boat, a tri-hull fiberglass boat with fishing rods. He thought, I said to myself, that's the man. And the boy asked me, how do you know? I said, no dumb fool was going to fish in this northeaster. You know what I mean? he was acting like he was fishing.
Huh.
So when I come out of the gut, he would get me.
Right.
The boy said, what are you gonna do? I said, keep right on shooting. We'll wait for it to get dark. I said, take that's that left side of that boat, the port side. I said, mud them numbers up. He mudded them up. When it got dark, I sailed out the back end and left him there. I knew a shortcut.
Now you say you mudded the numbers up, so you covered up the number, the numbers on your boat.
Correct.
Your ID numbers, okay. That's pretty funny. I haven't heard that one.
That's a good one too.
But it worked.
Yeah. You know, I happen to think, we never did ask you about names for ducks.
Oh yeah.
So, you're talking about buffleheads. If I list off some different birds, can you tell me what the Chincoteague is for it?
Yeah.
Okay, so a bufflehead.
Dipper,
That's a dipper. And a red-breasted merganser.
shelled up,
Is there a hooded merganser?
hairy head,
It's very good. And what other ones do I know?
What about a black duck?
black duck.
It's just black duck.
That makes too much sense. Black-bellied plover, I heard had a name. Cork was telling me. There's a hollerhead, is that?
Do they call it a knot or something?
A red knot is that a snipe? I don't know. You were saying that a black-bellied plover was a hollerhead.
It could be.
What about for a great blue heron?
Cranky.
Cranky. That's right. I forgot about that.
You know, people used to eat a lot of them.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I've had people come to me and say, I need one for dinner. I'd get him one. I've never eaten one myself. But I believe he was real fishy.
I would think so. I think so. Is a pintail a springtail here?
Springtail.
Springtail? Okay. What am I missing? You know,
Bald pate, we call them ball cranes, ball pates.
ball pate or ball crown?
If the real name is ball crane, I believe it is, and we call them ball pates, I think it
Is
is.
that a widgeon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think that's what they call them in Chrisfield too.
Brant, they call them Brant.
Yeah.
Goose. I don't know.
Long-tailed is an old squaw, right? Or
Yeah, we could
okay.
do that. I tell you, we shot, me and Elvie were in the bay and it was froze. I mean, the ice was everywhere. And these two birds come out across from Chincoteague Bay. Elvie said, they're shell ducks. I said, no, they ain't right. When they got close, I said, Elvie, take the front one, I'll get the back. And we killed both of them. And they were Egyptian geese.
Oh,
Egyptian geese.
I've never heard of Egyptian geese.
Yeah. Where did they come from? I have no idea. They had big white patches on their wings. So I called Cork up. I said, Cork, he liked to make stuff like that.
Do you have them here now, or does he have them?
He has.
I'll have to ask him about
Yeah.
that.
So he mounted them, huh?
He likes he likes to make everything.
Yeah. Something was called a sea crow. Cork called something a sea crow. I think it was an oyster catcher.
Yeah, oyster catcher.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And did you all just grow up calling the birds these things that were saying?
Yeah, did we,
So-
the old timers had a different name for them.
Yeah.
That's how we pick it up, you know. Now, we used to shoot a lot of shorebirds. And I got one or two stickers on the back of my truck, you know, piping plover, tastes great. Well, I was into a building place there getting me some lumber one day, and this woman come up, and she was looking at that back reading it. I kind of, you know, I guess she got mad because I had that on there. Well, when I see them like that, I love it, because I work on them good. I said, lady, I'm going to tell you a story, and what I'm going to tell you is true. I said, when I was young, I never had a car. To 11 years after I was married, I had a boat. When I wanted a haircut, my boat was down the end of the dock. I would sail all the way around Indiana, go up there by the fish company, and I'd go to Wallace's to get my haircut. And I said, was hoping that the tide would be rising. We're on the way back home. She said, why is that? I said, I always carried my shotgun, and I stop along those shoals, and then piping plovers and birds would be up there feeding. And as the tide rose, they got closer together. I said, when you shot, you had a plenty to eat. She got just as red as a beet went out of there.
Oh my goodness.
Now, how many plovers would actually make a meal? It seems like you need a lot of them.
It would take a few, but I'm going to tell you something you'll not believe.
What's that?
One boy's died now. He can't tell you, but it's another one. His boy was named Gene Sullivan and me. We would go down on southern end of Matonk and catch drumfish, spend nights down there 2-3 days. We'd always carry a little gun with us to shoot some of the birds. We always had bird to eat. We got down there and we forgot the gun. They said, how in the world are we going to get the birds? I said, I've got it. And then this story I'm telling you is the truth. I took some clamshells, and then birds would get in a knot, and I would throw them clamshell. I think the first time I done it, I killed 2. Clipped.
Just hitting them.
Yeah.
With
I
a
thought I could make them go.
Huh.
I think clamshells good.
Oh,
We ended up with 11 birds with clamshells. And they say they'll never believe this one, but that's the truth.
Huh. Oh my goodness.
We got the pots and pans out, cooked them up, and had a good supper. You got to improvise.
I guess so.
That's funny.
You were very resourceful.
so that was 11 for what, 2 people or 3
It
people?
was 3 of
For
us.
3 people.
Yeah, but you take them breasts and pop them out, you know, it was good. Take a pan and put a little butter in there, fry them up. You can eat off land.
Yep.
If things get tight on a Chincoteague, the true Chincoteaguers could probably survive. I have heard people talking about the depression. Chincoteague didn't know it was going on. Because they ate clams, fish, birds, you know.
Yeah.
That's how I did know.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you, Bobby.
Yes, thank you
No.
for doing the interview.
When
Yeah.
we started hunting, Chincoteaguers would kill more than what the limit.
Yeah.
And we never wasted anything. We had aunts, uncles, cousins, father and mother. See, my dad got me a gun when I was 13. Bad mistake. Big bad mistake, but I loved it, you know. And we started killing, and we would feed a lot of people. And to this day, we still do some of that. We feed a lot of people if we're fishing or if we're hunting, you know, especially the widows, you know, we would give it to them. And the game boards didn't like that. So we devised ways to outsmart the game board,
Yeah.
and that's how it worked.
Yep.
And we have a lot of tails, but it worked good.